Hello there, and welcome to Deep Sleep Seas. I'm so glad you found your way here tonight. Maybe you've had a long day, or perhaps you're the kind of person who prefers falling asleep to gentle ocean mysteries rather than counting sheep. Either way, tonight's journey is just for you. You've got nothing to do but rest. Let your mind relax, your breathing slow, and your body grow light as if the ocean itself is cradling you. Because tonight we aren't simply observing the sea. We're drifting alongside one of its most ancient and mysterious inhabitants, the jellyfish. These translucent beings have pulsed through the world's oceans for over 500 million years, and possibly as long as 700 million years. They've witnessed the rise and fall of countless species, survived every mass extinction event this planet has known, and continue to drift peacefully through waters both warm and cold, shallow and impossibly deep. Beneath their simple, graceful forms lies a world of wonder. Creatures without brains or hearts, yet capable of learning. Animals that glow in the dark, contributing to scientific breakthroughs that won Nobel Prizes. Beings so resilient that one species has even discovered biological immortality, never truly dying of old age. We'll float gently through their ethereal world, from the sun-drenched shallows where golden jellyfish dance with the sun, to the midnight depths where bioluminescent species create living constellations. You'll hear about their impossible simplicity and their surprising complexity, their ancient origins and their modern marvels. Some of what you hear tonight may surprise you, or spark quiet curiosity as you drift towards sleep. And just before we begin, if these calm, curious explorations help you unwind or give you a quiet way to end your day, consider liking and subscribing to the channel. It helps others find their way here too, one sleepy soul at a time. Now let's begin our gentle descent into the world of jellyfish. Jellyfish are among the oldest animals on Earth, and when we say old, we mean truly ancient. Fossil evidence suggests these creatures have been drifting through the oceans for at least 500 million years, though some scientists believe they may have existed for as long as 700 million years. To put this in perspective, jellyfish were already ancient when the first fish evolved. They were here long before dinosaurs walked the earth, before the first forests grew on land, even before insects took their first flights. These gelatinous beings witnessed the Cambrian explosion, that remarkable period when life suddenly diversified in complexity and abundance. They drifted through the seas when the continents were arranged in completely different configurations, when the climate oscillated between greenhouse warmth and ice ages, when the ocean's chemistry was radically different from today. And through it all, they persisted, not just survived but thrived. What makes their longevity even more remarkable is that jellyfish have lived through all 5 of Earth's major mass extinction events. These were catastrophic periods when the majority of life on the planet was wiped out. The most devastating of these, the Permian extinction around 250 million years ago, eliminated approximately 95% of all marine species. But jellyfish endured. When volcanic eruptions filled the skies with ash, when asteroid impacts threw debris into the atmosphere and blocked out the sun, when ocean chemistry turned deadly for so many creatures, jellyfish continued their peaceful pulsing through the waves. Their success lies partly in their simplicity. While more complex organisms struggled to adapt to rapidly changing conditions, jellyfish's basic body plan remained effective across countless environmental shifts. They don't require elaborate organs or specialized systems that might fail under stress. Their needs are minimal, their design is elegant, and their ability to reproduce both sexually and asexually gives them multiple paths to survival. Think of them as the ocean's quiet witnesses. They have no voice to tell their story, no memory to record what they've seen, yet they carry within their very existence the mark of deep time. Every jellyfish pulsing through the water today is connected through an unbroken chain of ancestors stretching back hundreds of millions of years. They are living fossils, not because they've remained frozen in evolutionary time, but because their fundamental design proved so successful that it needed little modification. Scientists studying jellyfish fossils have found remarkably preserved specimens in ancient rock formations. These fossils show that even hundreds of millions of years ago, jellyfish had already developed the characteristic bell shape, the trailing tentacles, and the radial symmetry that we recognize today. The mesoglea, that thick gelatinous layer that gives them their name, was already present. The stinging cells they used to capture prey were already functional. In essence, jellyfish figured out how to thrive in the ocean long before most other animal groups had even begun to experiment with different body plans. But their antiquity doesn't mean they're primitive or simple-minded, at least not in the way we might think. Recent research has revealed that these ancient animals are capable of surprisingly sophisticated behaviors. They can learn from experience, navigate complex environments, and coordinate intricate movements despite having no centralized brain. They've developed multiple strategies for feeding, reproducing, and surviving in virtually every marine habitat on the planet. Some species have evolved the ability to reverse their life cycle entirely, essentially achieving biological immortality. The jellyfish we see today in aquariums, or drifting past us when we swim in the ocean, are not relics of a bygone era, clinging desperately to existence. They are successful, abundant, and in some places thriving more than ever. In fact, as ocean conditions change due to warming waters and shifting ecosystems, many jellyfish populations are actually increasing. Some scientists worry about jellyfish blooms, massive aggregations that can clog fishing nets and overwhelm local ecosystems. But from another perspective, this just shows how adaptable these ancient animals truly are. When you consider the vast sweep of time that jellyfish represent, it's humbling. Dynasties rose and fell. Continents drifted apart and crashed back together. Mountains were born from the sea floor and worn down to plains. The moon slowly moved farther from Earth, lengthening our days. And through it all, jellyfish kept pulsing through the ocean, generation after generation, adapting just enough to persist, but never losing the essential characteristics that make them jellyfish. Tonight, as you rest, imagine you could see the entire history of these creatures played out before you. You would watch them drifting through ancient seas teeming with strange, now extinct life forms. You would see them survive cataclysms that wiped out the majority of their neighbors. You would witness them colonizing every ocean, from pole to pole, from the shallowest tide pools to the deepest trenches. And you would see them, still here, still pulsing, still drifting peacefully through the same waters where their story first began all those millions of years ago. They are older than mountains, older than forests, older than almost everything we consider ancient, and yet they're still here, floating quietly, asking nothing of the world except the gentle current and the presence of tiny prey. In their persistence, there's something deeply calming, a reminder that some things endure not through complexity or strength, but through elegant simplicity and perfect adaptation to their environment. One of the most fascinating aspects of jellyfish is what they lack. No brain, no heart, no lungs, no bones, no blood, and yet they live, they move, they hunt, they reproduce, and some species can even learn from experience. How is this possible? The answer reveals a radically different way of organizing a body, a design so unlike our own that it challenges our assumptions about what's necessary for life. Let's start with the brain, or rather the absence of one. In place of a centralized nervous system with a command center coordinating everything, jellyfish have evolved something quite different, a distributed nervous system called a nerve net. Imagine instead of having all your nerves connected to a brain in your head, they simply interconnected with each other throughout your entire body, forming a web of communication with no single control point. That's essentially what jellyfish have. This nerve net is actually composed of two distinct nervous systems working in harmony. The first is called the large nerve net, and the name comes from the fact that its nerve cells are absolutely enormous compared to typical neurons. In humans and many other animals, nerve cells are wrapped in fatty insulating cells that help signals travel quickly and efficiently, like insulation on electrical wires. Jellyfish don't have these insulating cells, so to conduct information rapidly across their bodies, their neurons had to evolve to be much, much larger. These massive nerve cells form a network that's packed around the muscles lining the underside of the jellyfish's bell. This entire system serves one primary purpose: coordinating the rhythmic pulsing movements that propel the jellyfish through the water. When a jellyfish pulses, it's not a random contraction, it's a beautifully synchronized movement, where muscles all around the bell contract in a coordinated wave, pushing water out and propelling the animal forward. The large nerve net makes this possible by transmitting signals rapidly around the entire bell, ensuring that all the muscles receive the command to contract at essentially the same time. In this way, the entire jellyfish functions almost like a single beating heart, though of course, it has no heart either. The second nervous system is the small nerve net, and this one is equally fascinating. While the large nerve net handles swimming, the small nerve net coordinates all the other behaviors jellyfish need to survive. This includes moving their tentacles to capture prey, bringing food to their mouth, responding to threats, and various other refined movements. Somehow, through the interconnected web of the small nerve net, a jellyfish can figure out where different parts of its body are in relation to each other and coordinate their actions accordingly. Think about what this means. When a jellyfish captures a small fish or shrimp with one of its tentacles, it needs to curl that specific tentacle toward its mouth while leaving the other tentacles free to catch more prey. The small nerve net allows different parts of the body to be aware of each other and to respond to each other's needs, all without any central brain calling the shots. It's a bit like a committee where every member has equal say and decisions emerge from the collective rather than from a single leader. Supporting both nerve nets are specialized sensory structures called rhopalia. These are small, club-shaped organs that dangle from the edge of the jellyfish's bell, typically positioned at regular intervals around the rim. Each rhopalium is a remarkable little package of sensors. It contains multiple eyes, typically 6 per rhopalium, though they're very simple eyes compared to ours. These eyes can detect light and shadow, giving the jellyfish a basic sense of its environment. Some box jellyfish species have more sophisticated eyes that can actually form images, making them the only jellyfish with anything approaching genuine vision. In addition to eyes, each rhopalium contains statocysts, which are essentially tiny balance organs. These help the jellyfish sense gravity and orientation, allowing it to know which way is up and to maintain its position in the water column. The rhopalia feed information to both nerve nets, providing the jellyfish with a constant stream of sensory input about light levels, orientation, water currents, and nearby objects. What's truly remarkable is that recent research has shown jellyfish can actually learn, despite having no centralized brain. In experiments with Caribbean box jellyfish, scientists placed them in tanks surrounded by low-contrast gray and white stripes that resembled distant mangrove roots in clear water. At first, the jellyfish swam into the walls, apparently perceiving the stripes as distant objects. But after bumping into the walls a few times, they learned to avoid them, treating the gray stripes as close obstacles to navigate around rather than distant objects to ignore. Even more surprisingly, when researchers isolated the rhopalia by themselves, removing them from the jellyfish's body, these tiny nerve bundles showed signs of learning. When shown low-contrast bars and given weak electrical pulses to simulate bumping into something, the rhopalia began responding to the bars as if they were obstacles to avoid. This suggests that the learning happens not in some central processor, but distributed throughout these sensory organs themselves. This kind of learning is called associative learning, the ability to connect events in time and change behavior based on those connections. For a long time, scientists assumed this required a brain or at least some kind of centralized nervous system. The discovery that jellyfish can learn challenges that assumption and opens up new questions about how learning evolved in animals. Perhaps you don't need complexity to learn. Perhaps even the simplest nervous systems are capable of forming memories and adjusting behavior based on experience. Without a heart, jellyfish can't pump blood because they don't have blood. Their bodies are about 95% water, and oxygen simply diffuses through their thin skin into their tissues. The mesoglea, that thick jelly-like layer in the middle of their body, can also store oxygen for extended periods, giving them a reserve to draw on. In this way, every part of the jellyfish's body is in direct contact with the oxygen it needs, eliminating the need for a circulatory system entirely. Their digestive system is equally simple. They have a single opening that serves as both mouth and anus, leading to a gastrovascular cavity where digestion takes place. Food goes in through the mouth, gets broken down in the cavity, nutrients are absorbed, and whatever waste remains gets expelled back out the same opening. It's not glamorous, but it works perfectly for their needs. The absence of bones means jellyfish are incredibly flexible, able to squeeze through tight spaces, and survive being tossed about by waves and currents that would damage more rigid animals. If part of a jellyfish's bell gets torn or damaged, often it can survive and even regenerate the missing tissue. Their distributed nervous system means that losing part of their body doesn't necessarily incapacitate them the way damage to a brain would disable an animal with a centralized nervous system. In evolutionary terms, scientists believe jellyfish's ancestors branched off very early on the tree of life, before centralized nervous systems evolved in the lineage that would eventually lead to humans and most other familiar animals. It's possible that evolution of a brain occurred on one branch, while jellyfish, having already found a successful strategy, continued with their distributed system. Or perhaps there were multiple paths to complexity, and jellyfish simply took a different route. Whatever the reason, the nerve net has served jellyfish extraordinarily well for hundreds of millions of years. It allows them to navigate their environment, find food, avoid predators, and reproduce successfully. It gives them sensory perception without eyes as complex as ours, movement without a brain to coordinate it, and responsiveness without centralized processing. As you drift towards sleep tonight, consider the jellyfish's radical simplicity. No overthinking, no single point of failure, just a distributed network of nerves, each responding to its environment, each communicating with its neighbors, creating coherent behavior through collective action rather than top-down control. In a way, it's almost peaceful, this decentralized existence. No single part of the jellyfish is more important than any other. Every part contributes to the whole, working together without hierarchy, without command structures, just pure, elegant coordination emerging from simplicity. Imagine being 95% water, your body barely more substantial than the ocean around you. This is the reality for jellyfish. Creatures so insubstantial, they seem to be made more of transparency than flesh, more of liquid than solid matter. And yet this extreme simplicity is precisely what makes them so successful, so perfectly adapted to life adrift in the sea. The jellyfish body consists of just 3 layers. The outermost layer is the epidermis, a thin skin that covers the outside of the bell and tentacles. Despite its thinness, this layer performs a crucial function. It absorbs oxygen directly from the water. As the jellyfish pulses through the sea, water flows across its epidermis, and oxygen diffuses through this membrane into the tissues below. In this simple exchange, the jellyfish breathes without lungs, taking in oxygen through its entire outer surface rather than through a specialized respiratory organ. Beneath the epidermis lies the mesoglea, and this is where jellyfish get both their name and their characteristic appearance. The mesoglea is a thick, gelatinous substance that gives the jellyfish its shape and volume. It's made primarily of water, laced with collagen and other proteins that give it structure and elasticity. When you see a jellyfish pulsing through the water or lying on a beach after being washed ashore, the clear, jelly-like substance you're seeing is the mesoglea. But the mesoglea does more than just fill space. It acts as a kind of hydrostatic skeleton, providing support without the need for bones. When the muscles around the jellyfish's bell contract, they squeeze against the mesoglea, which pushes back, helping to give the pulsing movement its power. The mesoglea also stores oxygen, acting as a reservoir that the jellyfish can draw upon when needed. Some jellyfish that dive deep or move through low oxygen zones rely on this stored oxygen to sustain them until they reach better conditions. The innermost layer is the gastrodermis, which lines the inside of the bell and surrounds the gastrovascular cavity. This layer is where digestion happens. When a jellyfish captures prey with its tentacles and draws the food to its mouth, the gastrodermis secretes enzymes that break down the prey's tissues. The nutrients are absorbed directly through the gastrodermis into the jellyfish's body, and waste products are eventually expelled back through the mouth. The radial symmetry of jellyfish bodies is another key feature of their design. Unlike humans and most animals you're familiar with, which have bilateral symmetry with distinct left and right sides, jellyfish are organized like the spokes of a wheel radiating out from a central point. This radial symmetry means that jellyfish can sense and respond to threats or opportunities coming from any direction. They don't have a front or back, a left or right. Every direction is essentially the same, which is perfect for a creature that drifts with currents and needs to be ready to respond to its environment from all sides. The tentacles extending from the jellyfish's bell are lined with specialized cells called nematocysts, the stinging cells that jellyfish are famous for. Each nematocyst is like a tiny harpoon coiled inside a capsule. When triggered by contact or chemical signals, the nematocyst fires, shooting out a barbed thread that can inject venom into prey or predators. Some jellyfish have thousands or even millions of these nematocysts, creating a vast arsenal of microscopic weapons deployed across their tentacles. The beautiful transparency of most jellyfish serves a practical purpose: camouflage. When you're almost entirely water and nearly invisible in the sea, prey don't see you coming, and predators often swim right past you. This transparency is possible because jellyfish lack the dense tissues, pigmented organs, and opaque structures that make most animals visible. Light passes through them almost unimpeded, bending and refracting in ways that create their characteristic ghostly appearance. Different species of jellyfish have evolved different body plans while maintaining this basic three-layer structure. Some have long trailing tentacles that can extend many times the diameter of their bell, creating a vast net to capture prey. Others have short, stubby tentacles, or in some rare cases, no tentacles at all. The bell can be deeply curved like an umbrella or relatively flat like a disc. Some species have thick oral arms covered in frilly tissue that increases surface area for capturing tiny prey, while others have simple mouths suited to engulfing larger food items. The flexibility of the jellyfish body is remarkable. Because they lack rigid structures, they can be squeezed, bent, and compressed to an extraordinary degree. This allows them to navigate through narrow spaces, survive rough surf, and cope with being tossed about by storms. If a jellyfish gets damaged, often it can regenerate lost tissue, growing back portions of its bell or replacing lost tentacles. Their simple body plan makes repair and regeneration much more straightforward than it would be for animals with complex organ systems. The single opening that serves as both mouth and anus might seem inefficient, but for jellyfish it works perfectly. They digest their food so quickly that there's rarely any backup or conflict between eating and eliminating. In fact, jellyfish must digest rapidly to remain buoyant. If they held on to undigested food for too long, the weight would make it difficult to maintain their position in the water column. So they process meals quickly, extracting what they need and expelling the rest, keeping themselves light and responsive. Water flows constantly through the gastrovascular cavity, bringing in not just food but also oxygen and carrying away waste products. This flow is maintained by the jellyfish's pulsing movements and by tiny hair-like structures called cilia that line some of the internal channels. The water circulation serves many of the same functions that blood circulation serves in other animals, distributing nutrients and oxygen while removing carbon dioxide and metabolic waste. Some jellyfish have evolved elaborate internal structures branching off from the main gastrovascular cavity. These canals extend throughout the bell and into the tentacles, creating a distribution network that ensures all parts of the body receive nutrients and oxygen. In larger jellyfish species, these branching canals are essential for getting resources to tissues that might otherwise be too far from the central cavity. The simplicity of the jellyfish body plan means they require very little energy to maintain themselves. They don't need to power a brain, pump blood through a circulatory system, or maintain a constant body temperature. They drift with currents when they can, only expending energy to pulse when they need to move to a different depth or avoid an obstacle. This low energy requirement allows them to survive in nutrient-poor waters where more active predators would struggle to find enough food. As you relax into sleep, imagine the feeling of being mostly water, so light and insubstantial that you could float effortlessly through the sea. No heavy bones weighing you down, no complex organs requiring constant maintenance. Just a simple, elegant form drifting peacefully through an ocean that's essentially made of the same substance as your own body. The boundary between self and environment becomes almost meaningless when you're 95% water floating in water, moving with the currents, pulsing gently, existing in a state of almost perfect simplicity. Among the many remarkable jellyfish species drifting through our oceans, one stands out for its ability to do something almost no other animal can: reverse its aging process and essentially become immortal. This is Turritopsis downi, commonly known as the immortal jellyfish, and its story is one of the most fascinating in all of biology. Most animals, including most jellyfish, follow a one-way path through life. They're born, they grow, they mature, they reproduce, and eventually, they die. This progression might take days, months, or decades, but the direction is always forward. Aging might slow or accelerate, but it never reverses, except in Turritopsis downi. When this tiny jellyfish faces stress, injury, starvation, or simply reaches old age, it can do something extraordinary. it can transform back into its younger polyp stage and start its life cycle all over again. To understand how remarkable this is, we need to understand the typical jellyfish life cycle. Most jellyfish begin life as tiny fertilized eggs released into the water. These develop into larvae called planulae, which drift in the plankton for a while before settling on a hard surface like a rock or shell. Once attached, the planulae transforms into a polyp, a small stationary form that looks more like a tiny anemone than a jellyfish. The polyp feeds by capturing microscopic organisms from the water using its tentacles. Polyps can reproduce asexually by budding, creating clones of themselves that break off and form new polyps nearby. A single polyp can create a whole colony through this process. But polyps can also do something more dramatic under the right conditions. They can undergo a transformation called strobilation. The polyp elongates and develops horizontal grooves, dividing itself into a stack of disc-like segments. These segments, called ephyrae, then separate from the polyp and swim away as tiny, immature jellyfish. The ephyra is essentially a miniature jellyfish with a distinctive shape, usually only a few millimeters across. It immediately begins feeding on zooplankton and growing. Over the course of weeks or months, the ephyra develops into a mature medusa, the free-swimming adult form we recognize as a jellyfish. This medusa will eventually produce eggs or sperm, releasing them into the water to start the cycle anew. In most jellyfish species, once the medusa has reproduced, it dies. The life cycle moves in one direction, polyp to ephyra to medusa to death. But Turritopsis dawni has discovered a loophole in this cycle. When a mature medusa encounters stress, whether from starvation, injury, changes in temperature or salinity, or simply old age, it can reverse its development. The medusa settles to the seafloor, and its bell begins to deteriorate. The tentacles retract, the body transforms, cells shifting their identity through a process called transdifferentiation, where specialized adult cells convert into different types of cells, essentially becoming pluripotent like stem cells. Through this cellular reprogramming, the medusa transforms back into a polyp, and not just any polyp, but a young polyp that can then begin the cycle again, eventually producing new medusa through strobilation. Genetically, it's the same individual, but it's been born again as a younger version of itself. This process can theoretically repeat indefinitely. The jellyfish can age, rejuvenate, age again, rejuvenate again, over and over, achieving a form of biological immortality. Now, this doesn't mean that individual Turritopsis are actually immortal in practice. They can still be eaten by predators, succumb to disease, or be killed by environmental hazards. Most individual medusae probably don't live very long in the wild before something eats them, or they drift into unfavorable conditions. But theoretically, if a Turritopsis dawni could avoid all these external threats, it need never die of old age. Scientists studying this phenomenon have found that Turritopsis maintains its telomeres, the protective caps on the ends of chromosomes, that typically shorten as cells divide and age. This maintenance of telomere length is part of what allows the jellyfish to essentially reset its cellular aging clock. The genetic mechanisms behind this ability are now being studied intensively because understanding how Turritopsis achieves this reversal might one day inform research into aging, tissue regeneration, and stem cell biology in other organisms, possibly including humans. One Japanese scientist, Shin Kubota, has managed to keep a population of Turritopsis dawni in captivity for years, carefully maintaining the conditions they need to survive and documenting their life cycle reversals. He reported that over a 2-year period, his colony rebirthed itself 11 times. Kubota has become something of a celebrity in Japan, appearing on television to discuss his immortal jellyfish and even writing songs about them, which he performs at conferences. The moon jellyfish, Aurelia aurita, represents a more typical jellyfish life cycle, though it has its own fascinating characteristics. These are the jellyfish you're most likely to encounter at an aquarium or drifting near shore in temperate waters. They typically live for about 12 to 18 months in the wild, though in aquariums with optimal conditions they can survive for several years. Their polyp stage can persist much longer, with some polyps living for 25 years or more before finally transforming into medusae. Moon jellies also show remarkable adaptability. Recent research has discovered that Aurelia aurita can also undergo life cycle reversal under certain conditions similar to Turritopsis dawni, though they're not as skilled at it. When faced with extreme stress, some Aurelia can transform from medusa back to polyp form, essentially growing younger. This discovery was surprising because it suggests that life cycle reversal might be more common among jellyfish than previously thought. The complex life cycles of jellyfish, with their alternation between polyp and medusa stages, between asexual and sexual reproduction, gives them remarkable flexibility. If conditions are good, polyps can rapidly produce many ephyrae through strobilation, quickly taking advantage of favorable circumstances. If conditions are poor, polyps can simply wait, persisting in their small, unobtrusive form for years if necessary, waiting for better times to produce medusae. Some jellyfish have evolved even more unusual variations on this life cycle. Certain species can reproduce by budding directly from the medusa stage, creating clones of themselves without needing to revert to polyps. Others can reproduce through fission, where the medusa splits into two separate individuals. These alternative strategies provide yet more options for survival and proliferation. The regenerative abilities of jellyfish extend beyond the immortal jellyfish's life cycle reversal. Many jellyfish species can regenerate damaged tissue, regrowing lost tentacles or repairing tears in their bells. Some can even regenerate substantial portions of their bodies if damaged. This regenerative capacity, combined with their simple body plan, makes jellyfish remarkably resilient to injury. As you settle into sleep, think about the concept of starting over, of regeneration and renewal. In nature, there are creatures that have found ways to reverse their aging, to transform back into younger versions of themselves, to begin again. The immortal jellyfish reminds us that life cycles aren't always one-way streets. Sometimes, under the right circumstances, there can be renewal, transformation, and the possibility of beginning again. In the quiet depths of the ocean, these tiny translucent beings pulse through the water, carrying within them the secret of eternal youth, drifting peacefully through cycles of transformation that we're only beginning to understand. Some of the most mesmerizing sights in the ocean happen in darkness, when certain jellyfish begin to glow with their own internal light. Bioluminescence, the ability of living organisms to produce light through chemical reactions, is widespread among marine creatures, and about half of all jellyfish species have this ability. The glowing jellyfish drifting through the dark ocean create an underwater light show, producing blues and greens that can startle predators, attract prey, or help these animals communicate in their own wordless way. The story of how scientists discovered the secrets of jellyfish bioluminescence is itself fascinating and led to a Nobel Prize in chemistry. It begins in the summer of 1961, at the University of Washington's Friday Harbor Laboratories. A Japanese biochemist named Osamu Shimomura had been trying for weeks to isolate the enzyme that made the crystal jelly, Akoria victoria, glow when disturbed. These jellyfish, found off the west coast of North America, emit a beautiful green light when agitated, and Shimomura wanted to understand the chemistry behind this glow. After another frustrating day of experiments that produced only faint glowing from his samples, Shimomura was cleaning up his lab, preparing to dispose of the experimental material. He poured it into a sink, and when the liquid mixed with the seawater in the sink, there was a sudden bright blue flash. Shimomura quickly realized that it wasn't the sink itself causing the glow, but rather the calcium in the seawater reacting with something in his jellyfish samples. This accidental discovery led Shimomura to isolate a protein called a kikurin, a photoprotein that produces blue light when it interacts with calcium ions. But there was a puzzle. The crystal jellies glow green when disturbed, not blue. Shimomura hypothesized that there must be another protein involved, something that was absorbing the blue light and re-emitting it as green. Further experiments proved him correct. He had discovered green fluorescent protein, or GFP, which would go on to revolutionize biological research. GFP absorbs blue light and emits green light, a process called fluorescence. In the living jellyfish, when the animal is disturbed, calcium ions flood into the photocytes, specialized light-producing cells located around the margin of the bell. The calcium triggers a kikurin to release blue light. This blue light is immediately absorbed by GFP molecules present in the same cells, and GFP emits green light. The whole process happens in a flash, creating the characteristic green glow of the crystal jelly. For decades, this discovery remained an interesting bit of jellyfish biology, but nothing more. Then, in the 1980s and 90s, Other scientists realized that GFP could be used as a revolutionary tool for biology and medicine. By inserting the GFP gene into other organisms, researchers could make specific cells or proteins glow green under the right lighting. This allowed them to watch biological processes in real time, to track where proteins moved within cells, to observe cancer cells spreading, to see neurons forming connections in the brain, to visualize HIV moving between immune cells. The impact was enormous. Suddenly, processes that were once invisible became visible. Scientists could watch life happening at the molecular level, seeing things that had only been theoretical before. Researchers developed new variants of GFP that glowed in different colors, allowing them to track multiple processes simultaneously. They created rainbow mice whose neurons glowed in multiple colors, creating stunning images of the brain's wiring. They watched development unfold in real time in transparent organisms, seeing every cell division and migration. In 2008, Shimomura shared the Nobel Prize in Chemistry with two other scientists, Martin Chalfie and Roger Tyan, for the discovery and development of GFP. A simple question about why jellyfish glow had led to a scientific revolution, all because one scientist accidentally poured his experimental samples down the sink and paid attention to the flash of light that resulted. But GFP and aquarin are just one type of bioluminescent system. Jellyfish use various chemical pathways to produce light depending on the species. Most bioluminescent reactions involve a light-emitting molecule called luciferin reacting with oxygen in the presence of an enzyme called luciferins. Different types of organisms have different types of luciferins, suggesting that bioluminescence evolved independently many times throughout the history of life. The colors of bioluminescence in jellyfish are typically blue or green because these wavelengths travel furthest through seawater. In the deep ocean where many bioluminescent jellyfish live, red and orange light is quickly absorbed by the water, but blue and green can travel considerable distances. A flash of blue light in the darkness of the deep sea can be seen from far away, making it effective for communication or defense. Jellyfish use their bioluminescence for various purposes. Some species use it as a defense mechanism, producing bright flashes when attacked to startle predators and provide an opportunity to escape. The sudden burst of light can temporarily blind a predator or make them pause long enough for the jellyfish to pulse away. Other jellyfish can detach glowing tentacles as decoys, leaving a glowing lure for the predator to attack while the jellyfish itself escapes in the darkness. Comb jellies, which aren't true jellyfish but are often grouped with them, produce a different kind of light display. They have rows of cilia, tiny hair-like structures they use for swimming that diffract light, creating rainbow effects that shimmer and pulse as they move. This isn't true bioluminescence, since they're not producing light, just bending it, but the effect is equally mesmerizing. Some comb jellies can also produce actual bioluminescence, combining both effects in a spectacular display. Deep-sea jellyfish often have bioluminescent organs called photophores arranged in patterns along their bells or tentacles. These can be used to attract prey, with the glowing spots acting as lures to draw in curious fish or crustaceans. Once the prey comes close enough to investigate the light, the jellyfish's tentacles snap out to capture it. In the pitch-black depths where sunlight never penetrates, a glowing lure can be irresistible. The Atolla jellyfish has developed one of the most dramatic bioluminescent displays, sometimes called the burglar alarm. When attacked by a predator, Atolla produces a pinwheel of rotating blue light that pulses across its bell. Scientists believe this display is designed to attract even larger predators to the scene. The idea is that the spectacular light show will draw the attention of something big enough to threaten Atolla's attacker, providing the jellyfish with an opportunity to escape while its attacker is busy dealing with a new threat. Research into jellyfish bioluminescence continues to reveal new details about these light-producing systems. Scientists have discovered that some jellyfish have multiple types of photocytes producing different colors of light. Others can control the intensity and duration of their glow, creating complex patterns of flashing. The genetic and biochemical mechanisms behind these abilities are still being worked out, and each discovery adds to our understanding of how these ancient animals interact with their environment. As you drift towards sleep, imagine yourself in the deep ocean where no sunlight reaches. The water around you is black, a darkness more complete than any night on land. And then suddenly, a flash of blue light pulses in the distance. Another jellyfish drifts past, its bell glowing with a soft green luminescence. A cone jelly nearby creates rainbow ripples of light as it swims. These living constellations move through the dark water, each one a small miracle of biochemistry, creating light from simple chemical reactions, illuminating the ocean's midnight zones with their gentle glow. In this vast darkness they shine, asking nothing, simply existing as small points of light in the deep, drifting peacefully through the black water, glowing softly, beautifully, creating their own small illumination in an otherwise lightless world. Not all jellyfish need to hunt for every meal. Some species have evolved remarkable partnerships with single-celled algae, hosting these photosynthetic organisms within their own tissues. These symbiotic relationships allow jellyfish to benefit from two food sources: the traditional carnivorous diet of captured prey, and the sugars produced by their algae partners through photosynthesis. It's a collaboration that has proven so successful that about 20 to 25% of all cyphozoan jellyfish species have adopted it. The algae involved in these partnerships are called zooxanthellae, single-celled dinoflagellates that contain chlorophyll and can photosynthesize like plants. The name zooxanthellae literally means yellow animal, though they're golden brown in color rather than yellow. These algae are most famous for their relationships with coral, where they're essential for reef formation, but many jellyfish species host them as well, creating what scientists call a zooxanthellate jellyfish. The relationship works through mutual benefit. The zooxanthellae live inside the jellyfish's tissues, particularly in the oral arms and around the bell edges where they have access to sunlight. Protected within the jellyfish's body, the algae are safe from predators and have access to nutrients the jellyfish's metabolism produces, particularly nitrogen and phosphorus. In return, the algae perform photosynthesis, converting sunlight, carbon dioxide, and water into sugars and oxygen. Some of these photosynthetic products are transferred to the jellyfish host, providing it with nutrition without the need to catch prey. Perhaps the most famous zooxanthellate jellyfish is the upside-down jellyfish, genus Cassiopeia. These remarkable animals spend most of their time resting on the sea floor, with their bell facing down and their oral arms facing up toward the sunlight. This inverted posture maximizes their zooxanthellae's exposure to light, allowing the algae to photosynthesize more effectively. The upside-down jellyfish pulse gently while resting, creating water flow through their oral arms that helps with gas exchange and nutrient circulation. Cassiopeia can be found in shallow lagoons, mangrove swamps, and protected coastal waters in tropical and subtropical regions around the world. They typically inhabit areas where sunlight can penetrate easily, and they avoid deep or murky water where their algae partners wouldn't receive enough light. Their dependence on photosynthesis has shaped their entire lifestyle, turning them from active swimmers into stationary solar-powered organisms that pulse gently in shallow sunlit waters. One of the most spectacular examples of zooxanthellate jellyfish occurs in Jellyfish Lake on the island of Eel Malk in Palau. This 12,000-year-old marine lake was formed when rising ocean levels flooded a depression in the limestone island. As sea levels dropped again, the lake became isolated from the ocean, trapping a population of golden jellyfish inside. With no predators to fear in their isolated lake, these jellyfish lost their ability to sting over generations. Today, millions of these harmless golden jellyfish fill the lake, and tourists come from around the world to swim among them. The golden jellyfish of Jellyfish Lake follow the sun across the sky each day in a remarkable migration. In the morning, they're clustered on the eastern side of the lake, positioned to catch the sunrise. As the sun moves west throughout the day, the jellyfish migrate horizontally across the lake, always keeping themselves in optimal lighting for their zooxanthellae. They carefully avoid the shadows cast by the surrounding cliffs and overhanging vegetation where their predators, sea anemones, lurk. At sunset, the jellyfish are on the western side of the lake. At night, they descend to deeper water where nutrients are more concentrated, rising again at dawn to begin the cycle anew. This daily migration serves multiple purposes. The horizontal movement following the sun ensures maximum photosynthesis for the zooxanthellae. The nightly descent to deeper water allows the algae to access nutrients that are more abundant at depth, particularly nitrogen and phosphorus compounds. These nutrients are essential for algal growth and reproduction, and by migrating to deep water each night, the jellyfish help their algae partners access these critical resources. When dawn comes, the jellyfish rise again, bringing their newly nourished algae back to the sunlight. Scientists studying the jellyfish in this lake have made fascinating discoveries about their ecology and behavior. Researcher Kakani Katija proposed that the daily vertical migration of millions of jellyfish might actually help mix the lake's waters, bringing nutrients from depth to the surface and oxygen from the surface to depth. This mixing effect, created by the synchronized movement of so many jellyfish, could be an important but previously unrecognized way that swimming organisms influence their environments. The relationship between jellyfish and zooxanthellae isn't always perfectly mutualistic. Research has shown that under some conditions, particularly when algae can spread horizontally between jellyfish hosts rather than being passed from parent to offspring, the algae can evolve to become more parasitic. They reproduce faster within the host, extract more resources, and can actually harm the jellyfish's growth and reproduction. However, there appears to be a trade-off where algae that are too virulent reduce their own fitness by weakening their hosts too much. Other jellyfish species besides Cassiopeia also host zooxanthellae. The Mediterranean jellyfish Cotylohisa tuberculata has an elaborate system of oral arms covered in dense populations of symbiotic algae. The spotted jellyfish Philohisa punctata got its name from the small white spots covering its bell, which are concentrations of zooxanthellae visible through the translucent tissue. The distribution of algae within these jellyfish isn't uniform. They're much more concentrated in the oral arms and tentacles where light exposure is best than in the thicker tissue of the bell. Jellyfish acquire their zooxanthellae in different ways depending on the species. Some receive algae from their parent during reproduction, with the symbionts being passed directly in the eggs or during the larval brooding period. Others acquire algae from the environment, with free-swimming algae in the water being taken up by the young polyps or epherae and establishing themselves in the host tissues. Some species can even acquire algae by eating other organisms that already contain zooxanthellae, incorporating the algae into their own tissues rather than digesting them. The golden brown color of zooxanthellate jellyfish comes from the photosynthetic pigments in the algae, particularly a dinoflagellate pigment called peridin. In bright light, these jellyfish can appear quite colorful, with golden brown or olive tones. In some species, the algae are so densely packed that the jellyfish appears almost opaque rather than translucent, filled with living solar panels converting sunlight into food. Climate change and ocean warming pose potential threats to these symbiotic relationships, just as coral can bleach when water temperatures rise too high, expelling their zooxanthellae and turning white. Some zooxanthellate jellyfish can also lose their algae under stressful conditions. However, jellyfish may be somewhat more resilient than coral because many species are mixotrophic, meaning they can switch between relying on photosynthesis and actively catching prey. If their algae fail, they can potentially survive by increasing their hunting activity. As you rest tonight, imagine floating in warm, clear water in a sheltered lagoon, surrounded by thousands of golden jellyfish. They pulse gently around you, each one filled with millions of microscopic algae partners, each partnership a quiet collaboration between animal and plant, between the mobile and the stationary, between the hunter and the photosynthesizer. The jellyfish drift slowly across the lagoon, following the sun's path, their movements choreographed by the daily rhythm of light and darkness, seeking the perfect balance between sunlight and nutrients, between activity and rest. In their patient migration, there's something deeply peaceful, a reminder that life often works best through cooperation, through partnerships, where different organisms support each other, each contributing what the other lacks, creating something greater than either could achieve alone. Jellyfish are not confined to any particular region or depth of the ocean. They have successfully colonized virtually every marine environment on Earth, from the warm tropical lagoons to the frigid waters beneath Arctic ice, from shallow tidal pools to the deepest trenches, from the open ocean to protected harbors and bays. With over 2,000 species spread across the globe, jellyfish have proven themselves to be among the most adaptable and widespread animals in the sea. In the Arctic Ocean, jellyfish drift beneath the ice, pulsing through water that's cold enough to freeze a human in minutes. The lion's mane jellyfish, one of the largest species with tentacles that can trail over 100 feet behind the bell, thrives in these cold northern waters. These massive jellies can have bells 8 feet in diameter, creating enormous drifting nets of stinging tentacles that capture everything from tiny zooplankton to small fish. Despite their size and the harsh conditions they inhabit, lion's mane jellyfish live just about 1 year, completing their entire life cycle in the planet's coldest seas. At the opposite extreme, tropical waters host an incredible diversity of jellyfish species. The warm, clear waters of coral reefs are home to box jellyfish with their distinctive cube-shaped bells and advanced eyes. The upside-down jellyfish rest in shallow lagoons, soaking up tropical sunshine. Colorful spotted jellyfish drift through mangrove forests, their bells marked with the distinctive white spots that give them their name. In these warm waters, jellyfish often gather in massive aggregations called blooms, sometimes numbering in the millions. The open ocean, vast and largely featureless, is traversed by pelagic jellyfish species that drift with currents for their entire lives, never touching bottom. These wanderers follow the great ocean gyres, moving with the water, feeding on the zooplankton that drifts alongside them. Some undertake daily vertical migrations, rising toward the surface at night to feed and descending to deeper, darker waters during the day. These migrations can span hundreds of feet of depth, taking the jellyfish through zones of different temperature, pressure, and light. In the twilight zone of the ocean, that realm between about 600 and 3,000 feet deep where sunlight fades to darkness, many jellyfish species have adapted to life in permanent dimness. Most species living at these depths are bioluminescent, producing their own light in an environment where the sun's rays never penetrate. These deep-dwelling jellies often have bells that are red or dark purple, colors that are invisible in the deep ocean's blue-tinted darkness, providing camouflage against the bioluminescent flashes of other organisms. Even deeper, in the abyssal zone, thousands of feet beneath the surface, jellyfish have been found drifting in waters where the pressure would crush most terrestrial organisms. Some species inhabit depths of 12,000 feet or more, adapted to the crushing pressures, near freezing temperatures, and complete darkness of the abyss. These jellies are often small and delicate, with simple bells and relatively few tentacles, designed for an environment where food is scarce and energy conservation is essential. Coastal waters host the greatest diversity and abundance of jellyfish. The shallow seas along continental margins, enriched by nutrients from river runoff and upwelling currents, provide ideal conditions for jellyfish populations to thrive. Here, phytoplankton blooms fuel abundant zooplankton populations, which in turn support large numbers of jellyfish. Estuaries, where rivers meet the sea, can tolerate jellyfish despite the varying salinity as fresh water mixes with salt water. Moon jellyfish are particularly tolerant of a wide range of conditions, allowing them to inhabit bays, harbors, and even somewhat polluted waters where more sensitive species cannot survive. They can tolerate salinities as low as 6 parts per thousand, about 1/5 the salinity of normal seawater. They thrive in water temperatures ranging from about 43 to 88 degrees Fahrenheit, with optimal temperatures between 48 and 66 degrees. This adaptability has made moon jellyfish one of the most widespread jellyfish species in the world. Jellyfish blooms, massive aggregations of jellyfish in particular areas, are natural phenomena that occur when conditions favor rapid population growth. These blooms can form when ocean currents concentrate jellyfish in one area, or when environmental conditions trigger polyps to release large numbers of ephyrae simultaneously. Abundant food, warm water, reduced predation, and optimal salinity can all contribute to bloom formation. In some years, blooms can be so dense that they clog fishing nets, overwhelm fishing boats, and even shut down power plants that use seawater for cooling. Climate change appears to be altering jellyfish distribution and abundance in some areas. Warmer water temperatures can favor jellyfish over fish in some ecosystems, because jellyfish generally tolerate warm, oxygen-poor conditions better than many fish species. Overfishing of jellyfish predators and competitors may also allow jellyfish populations to expand. In some regions, jellyfish blooms have become more frequent and larger over recent decades, though the causes are complex and still being studied. Some jellyfish species have become invasive, spreading beyond their native ranges to colonize new areas. The Black Sea, Caspian Sea, Mediterranean Sea, and other bodies of water have all experienced invasions of jellyfish species arriving in ship ballast water or through other means. These invaders can sometimes establish large populations, disrupting local ecosystems and fisheries. Despite living in such varied environments, all jellyfish share fundamental similarities in their ecology. They're planktonic, meaning they drift with currents more than they swim against them, though they can control their depth and avoid obstacles. They're carnivorous, feeding on zooplankton, fish larvae, and other small prey. They serve as both predators and prey, hunting smaller organisms while being hunted by sea turtles, sunfish, and various other predators. And they're integral parts of marine food webs, transferring energy from tiny plankton to larger animals, contributing to nutrient cycling, and providing habitat and protection for juvenile fish that shelter among their tentacles. As you drift into deeper sleep, imagine the vast scope of the jellyfish empire. In every ocean, at every depth, from pole to pole, they pulse through the water. Under Arctic ice, jellyfish drift in darkness. In tropical lagoons, they follow the sun. In the abyss, they glow with bioluminescence. In coastal bays, they form blooms that turn the water thick with gelatinous life. They inhabit every marine realm, from the brightest shallows to the darkest depths, from the warmest tropics to the coldest polar seas. And in this vast distribution, this successful colonization of virtually every marine habitat, there's something almost comforting. No matter where you go in the ocean, jellyfish are there, pulsing peacefully through the water, drifting with currents, existing in their simple, elegant way, perfectly adapted to their environment, asking nothing more than the right to drift and feed and reproduce, ancient survivors in a constantly changing world. Despite their passive appearance and gentle drifting movements, jellyfish are effective predators, armed with one of nature's most sophisticated microscopic weapons, the nematocyst. These specialized stinging cells allow jellyfish to capture and subdue prey that would otherwise be impossible for such slow-moving animals to catch. Understanding how these stinging cells work reveals the hidden complexity beneath the jellyfish's simple exterior. Each nematocyst is a remarkable piece of biological engineering, a tiny capsule containing a coiled, barbed thread. When triggered by contact or chemical signals indicating the presence of prey, the nematocyst fires in less than 1/1,000,000th of a second, making it one of the fastest cellular processes in nature. The coiled thread shoots out like a spring-loaded harpoon, the barbs hooking into the prey's tissue, and venom flows through the hollow thread into the victim. A single jellyfish can have millions of nematocysts distributed across its tentacles, oral arms, and sometimes even on its bell. This creates a vast array of microscopic weapons deployed in a wide net around the animal. When small fish, shrimp, copepods, or other prey brush against these tentacles, thousands of nematocysts can fire simultaneously, delivering enough venom to paralyze the prey within seconds. The tentacles then contract, drawing the captured prey toward the jellyfish's mouth. Different species of jellyfish have different types of nematocysts, specialized for different prey. Some have barbed, penetrating threads that inject potent venom, designed to quickly immobilize active prey like small fish. Others have sticky threads that entangle prey without necessarily injecting venom, useful for capturing slow-moving or passive prey. Still, others have threads designed to adhere to surfaces, helping the polyp stage anchor itself to rocks or shells. The venom delivered by jellyfish nematocysts varies dramatically in its effects. Most jellyfish produce venoms that are harmless or only mildly irritating to humans, causing temporary pain, redness, or itching. The moon jellyfish, for instance, has nematocysts so mild that most people don't even feel them if they touch the jellyfish. However, some species produce potent toxins that can cause severe pain, tissue damage, and in rare cases, even death in humans. Box jellyfish, particularly the sea wasp species from Indo-Pacific waters, possess some of the most potent venoms in the animal kingdom. Their nematocysts deliver toxins that affect the heart, nervous system, and skin cells, causing excruciating pain and potentially fatal cardiovascular collapse. The pain has been described as among the worst in nature, and victims often report feeling like they're being burned and shocked simultaneously. Fortunately, antivenom exists for the most dangerous species, and most stings, while painful, are not fatal if treated promptly. The Portuguese man-o'-war, which isn't technically a jellyfish but is closely related, has tentacles that can extend 60 feet or more, each covered in nematocysts. Its sting is intensely painful and can affect large areas of the body if someone becomes entangled in the trailing tentacles. Even tentacles washed up on the beach can still fire their nematocysts, so these beautiful but dangerous creatures should always be admired from a safe distance. But most jellyfish are not dangerous to humans. Their venoms are adapted to capture tiny prey, not to defend against large animals. Many species can be safely touched, their nematocysts unable to penetrate human skin or deliver enough venom to cause harm. In some places, like Jellyfish Lake in Palau, people swim among millions of jellyfish that have lost their stinging ability entirely over thousands of generations without predators. Once prey is captured and paralyzed, the jellyfish uses its tentacles to maneuver the food toward its mouth. The mouth leads directly into the gastrovascular cavity where digestion begins. The gastrodermis lining this cavity secretes digestive enzymes that break down the prey's tissues. Nutrients are absorbed through the cavity walls and distributed throughout the jellyfish's body via the branching canals that extend through the mesoglea. Jellyfish are remarkably efficient digesters. They must process their meals quickly to avoid being weighted down by undigested food, which would make it difficult to maintain their position in the water column. Most jellyfish can fully digest a meal within a few hours, extracting the nutrients they need and expelling the indigestible remains back through the mouth. This rapid digestion allows them to maintain their buoyancy and be ready to capture more prey. Different jellyfish species target different types of prey based on their size, tentacle arrangement, and habitat. Small species with short tentacles feed primarily on copepods and other tiny zooplankton that they encounter while drifting. Larger species with long trailing tentacles can capture substantial prey, including fish several inches long. Some jellyfish are specialized feeders, targeting specific types of prey, while others are generalists that will capture whatever they encounter. Interestingly, some jellyfish engage in cannibalism, with larger species preying on smaller jellyfish. The lion's mane jellyfish, for instance, is known to consume moon jellyfish when they drift into its tentacles. This predation on other jellyfish can significantly impact population dynamics in areas where multiple species coexist. While jellyfish are effective predators, they're also prey for numerous other animals. Sea turtles, particularly leatherbacks, feed almost exclusively on jellyfish, consuming vast quantities to meet their nutritional needs. Ocean sunfish, seabirds, and various fish species also prey on jellyfish. Some predators, like the ocean sunfish, have tough skin and specialized digestive systems that allow them to consume jellyfish without being harmed by the nematocysts. The role of jellyfish as both predators and prey makes them important links in marine food webs. They consume enormous quantities of zooplankton, helping to control plankton populations and transferring energy from these tiny organisms to larger predators. When jellyfish die, their bodies sink and provide food for deep-sea scavengers, transferring nutrients from surface waters to the deep ocean floor. Some small fish and crustaceans have evolved to live among jellyfish tentacles, immune to their stings or somehow avoiding triggering the nematocysts. These associate animals gain protection from predators that would be stung if they approached, while sometimes stealing bits of food captured by their jellyfish host. Juvenile fish in particular often shelter among jellyfish, using them as mobile refuges as they grow large enough to survive on their own. As you drift deeper into sleep, picture a jellyfish suspended in the water column, its tentacles trailing below like a living curtain. Tiny organisms drift into this trap, invisible to them until it's too late. Thousands of nematocysts fire in an instant, too fast for the eye to follow. The prey's struggles cease almost immediately as venom takes effect. Tentacles contract in slow waves, drawing the captured meal upward. The jellyfish continues its eternal pulsing, patient and passive, waiting for the currents to bring the next meal drifting into its reach. There's something almost meditative about this existence, this patient hunting that requires no chase, no strategy, just presence and readiness, drifting with open tentacles, gathering what the ocean provides, taking what comes within reach, existing in a state of alert stillness, waiting, always waiting, peaceful and patient in the endless flow. With over 2,000 species spread across the world's oceans, jellyfish display remarkable diversity in form, size, color, and lifestyle. From thumbnail-sized species barely visible in the water to giants with bells 8 feet across and tentacles trailing over 100 feet. From delicate transparent drifters to colorful patterned species, the variety within the jellyfish world is extraordinary. The moon jellyfish, Aurelia aurita, is perhaps the most familiar species, the one you're most likely to encounter at an aquarium or while swimming at the beach. These disc-shaped jellies have translucent bells marked with 4 horseshoe-shaped reproductive organs visible through the thin tissue. They grow to about 16 inches in diameter and have short tentacles fringing the bell's edge. Moon jellies are found in temperate and tropical waters around the world, often gathering in large groups in bays and coastal waters. What makes moon jellyfish so successful is their adaptability. They can tolerate a wide range of temperatures, salinities, and even relatively low oxygen conditions that would stress many fish species. During summer months, when warm water creates low oxygen zones in some coastal areas, moon jellyfish populations can explode, taking advantage of conditions that exclude their competitors. They feed on zooplankton and fish larvae, using sticky mucus on their bell surface to trap tiny prey that they then transfer to their mouth with their oral arms. The lion's mane jellyfish, Cyanea capillata, is one of the largest animals in the ocean, though it's often overlooked in favor of more famous giants like whales and sharks. The largest recorded specimen had a bell diameter of about 7.5 feet and tentacles estimated at 120 feet long, making it possibly the longest animal on Earth. Even average specimens can have tentacles 40 or 50 feet long, creating enormous drifting nets of stinging cells. These cold water giants are found primarily in Arctic and northern temperate waters, though they occasionally drift south into warmer regions. Their color varies with size and age, with larger individuals being deep red or purple and smaller ones more yellow or orange. The long flowing tentacles that give the species its name can deliver painful stings to humans, though they're rarely dangerous. Lion's mane jellyfish prey on other jellyfish, including moon jellies, as well as fish and zooplankton caught in their massive tentacle arrays. Box jellyfish represent a fascinating branch of the jellyfish family tree. Unlike the circular bells of most jellyfish, box jellies have cube-shaped bells with flattened sides, giving them their distinctive name. They have clusters of tentacles hanging from each corner of the cube, and they're capable of much more active swimming than most jellyfish, able to pulse their bells rapidly and change direction to navigate around obstacles or pursue prey. What makes box jellyfish truly remarkable is their vision. Each box jelly has 24 eyes arranged in 4 clusters called rhopalia, positioned around the bell. Most of these eyes are simple light sensors, but some are surprisingly sophisticated, with lenses, retinas, and corners similar to vertebrate eyes. These complex eyes can form images and allow the box jellyfish to see their environment in ways most other jellyfish cannot. They use this vision to navigate through complex habitats like mangrove swamps, avoiding obstacles and hunting actively for prey. Unfortunately, box jellyfish also include some of the most dangerous species to humans. The Australian box jellyfish, Cheronex fleckeri, is considered one of the most venomous animals on Earth. Its sting can cause cardiac arrest within minutes, and deaths have occurred from exposure to its tentacles. Other box jellyfish species, particularly the tiny irukandji jellies, can cause a syndrome of severe pain, nausea, and potentially life-threatening symptoms. These species are found primarily in Indo-Pacific waters, and their presence has led to beach closures and the installation of protective nets in some areas. Combo jellies, or ctenophores, are often mistaken for jellyfish, but actually belong to a completely different phylum. They're named for the 8 rows of cilia that run along their bodies, looking like comb balls. These cilia beat in coordinated waves, propelling the comb jelly through the water and creating beautiful rainbow effects as light diffracts through the moving cilia. Most comb jellies are bioluminescent, producing greenish or bluish light when disturbed. Unlike true jellyfish, comb jellies don't have nematocysts. Instead, they capture prey using sticky cells called colloblasts on their tentacles. These cells produce an adhesive that glues prey to the tentacle, allowing the comb jelly to bring food to its mouth. Some comb jellies have enormously long tentacles that they trail behind them like fishing lines, while others have short tentacles or no tentacles at all, instead using lobes to engulf prey. The cannonball jellyfish, common in warm Atlantic waters, has a thick, firm bell that resembles a cannonball in shape and consistency. Unlike many jellyfish with long trailing tentacles, cannonballs have short oral arms and can be handled without significant risk of stinging. They're commercially harvested in some regions and are considered a delicacy in Asian cuisines. In the wild, they feed on zooplankton and typically live only 3 to 6 months. The spotted jellyfish, Philohisa punctata, is a beautiful species with a bell covered in white spots representing concentrations of symbiotic zooxanthellae algae. Native to the western Pacific, this species has become invasive in some areas, spreading to the Gulf of Mexico and Caribbean. Its ability to host zooxanthellae allows it to supplement its diet with photosynthesis, giving it an advantage in some environments. Deep-sea jellyfish species often have adaptations for life in the darkness and extreme pressure of the abyss. Many are small, with simple bells and few tentacles, conserving energy in an environment where food is scarce. Some species are bright red or purple, colors that are invisible in the deep sea's blue-tinted darkness. Others are transparent or nearly so, making them difficult for predators to detect even when illuminated by bioluminescent flashes. The Atolla jellyfish is a deep-sea species famous for its burglar alarm defense. When attacked, it produces a spectacular pinwheel of blue bioluminescent light that rotates around its bell. This dramatic display is thought to attract larger predators that might threaten the atolla's attacker, giving the jellyfish a chance to escape. The atolla's bell has a distinctive crown-like shape with a deep groove around its circumference. Some jellyfish species lack tentacles entirely, a rare adaptation that sets them apart from their relatives. The big red jellyfish, Tiburonia granrosa, discovered relatively recently in the deep Pacific, has no tentacles but instead has thick oral arms it uses to capture prey. This giant species can have a bell over 3 feet in diameter and is typically found at depths between 2,000 and 5,000 feet. The diversity of colors among jellyfish is remarkable. While many are transparent or whitish, others display vivid purples, reds, oranges, blues, and browns. These colors can come from pigments in the jellyfish's tissues, from symbiotic algae, or from the jellyfish's last meal visible through its translucent body. Some species can even change color based on their diet or environmental conditions. As you rest tonight, imagine the incredible variety of these animals. Tiny species barely visible drifting among the plankton. Giants with tentacles longer than blue whales. Species that glow in every color. Others that host gardens of symbiotic algae. Some with sophisticated eyes and active hunting behaviors. Others content to drift passively, filtering whatever comes their way. Fast swimmers and slow drifters. Shallow water species and deep sea dwellers. Tropical beauties and Arctic survivors. In this vast diversity, there's a reminder that life finds countless ways to solve the challenge of existence. Countless forms that work. Countless variations on the theme of being a jellyfish, each one perfectly adapted to its particular niche in the vast ocean. The reproduction and life cycles of jellyfish are among the most complex and fascinating in the animal kingdom, involving dramatic transformations, alternation between different body forms, and the ability to reproduce both sexually and asexually. Understanding these cycles reveals how jellyfish can rapidly take advantage of favorable conditions and persist through challenging times. Most jellyfish reproduce sexually when mature medusae. The free-swimming forms we recognize as jellyfish release eggs and sperm into the water. In most species, individual medusae are either male or female, though some species can change sex as they age or in response to environmental conditions. The males release sperm into the water column, and the sperm must find and fertilize eggs released by females. In some species, the female broods the developing embryos in pouches or on her oral arms, protecting them during their early development. Fertilized eggs develop into larvae called planulae, tiny ciliated organisms that drift in the plankton for days or weeks depending on the species and environmental conditions. The planula larvae is covered in tiny beating hairs that help it swim weakly, though it's still largely at the mercy of currents. During this planktonic phase, the larva can be dispersed far from its parent, allowing jellyfish to colonize new areas. Eventually, the planula larva must find a suitable surface to settle on. This might be a rock, a shell, a pier piling, or any other hard substrate. The larva tests surfaces chemically, and when it finds an appropriate spot, it attaches itself and undergoes metamorphosis into a polyp. This transformation is remarkable, changing from a swimming larva into a stationary, anemone-like form called a scyphostoma. The scyphostoma looks nothing like a jellyfish. It's a small, tube-like creature with a mouth at the top surrounded by tentacles that wave in the current to capture passing zooplankton. The polyp is typically only a few millimeters tall, and it feeds and grows slowly in its attached state. This polyp stage can last for months or even years, and during this time, the polyp can reproduce asexually. Asexual reproduction allows polyps to create clones of themselves without needing to find mates or wait for the right conditions. They can do this through budding, where small buds develop on the polyp's body, grow, and then detach to settle nearby and form new polyps. A single polyp can create dozens or hundreds of clones through this process, forming dense colonies on suitable substrates. Some species polyps have been known to survive for 25 years or more in the polyp stage, patiently reproducing asexually while waiting for conditions favorable for the next phase. When environmental conditions are right, typically involving changes in temperature or day length, the polyps undergo another dramatic transformation called strobilation. The polyp begins to constrict, forming horizontal grooves that divide its body into a stack of disc-shaped segments. These segments, stacked one on top of another, look like a pile of saucers balanced on the polyp's stalk. Each segment is a developing ephira, a miniature jellyfish. One by one, starting from the top of the stack, the ephirae separate from the polyp and swim away as tiny, free-living jellyfish. An individual polyp can produce multiple ephirae, sometimes dozens, through a single strobilation event. After releasing its ephirae, the polyp regenerates and returns to its feeding state, where it can eventually undergo strobilation again when conditions are favorable. The ephira is distinctive in appearance, usually about 1 millimeter or 2 across, with 8 lobes around its margin, giving it a star-like shape. It immediately begins feeding on zooplankton, growing rapidly. Over the course of weeks to months, the ephira's shape transforms, its lobes elongating and filling in to create the characteristic bell shape of an adult jellyfish. Tentacles grow, the bell thickens, and organs develop until the ephira has become a mature medusa. The medusa stage is typically the shortest phase of the jellyfish life cycle. Most medusa live for only a few weeks or months, rapidly growing, feeding and maturing before releasing their own eggs or sperm to begin the cycle anew. However, there's considerable variation among species. Moon jellyfish typically live 6 to 12 months as medusa, while some deep-sea species may survive for several years. The flame jellyfish lives only 3 months to a year, while some species of box jellyfish complete their entire life cycle, from egg to mature medusa, in less than a year. This complex life cycle, alternating between polyp and medusa stages and between asexual and sexual reproduction, gives jellyfish remarkable flexibility in responding to environmental conditions. When conditions are favorable, polyps can rapidly produce thousands of ephirae, creating large populations of medusae in a short time. When conditions are poor, polyps can simply wait, surviving for years in their attached state until better times return. Some jellyfish have evolved variations on this standard life cycle. Certain species can skip the polyp stage entirely, with the larva developing directly into a tiny medusa. Others can reproduce by budding from the medusa stage, with small medusa growing directly from the parent's bell. A few species reproduce through fission, where a single medusa splits into 2 individuals, each of which grows into a complete jellyfish. The discovery that some jellyfish, particularly Turritopsis donii, can reverse their life cycle and transform from medusa back to polyp added another layer of complexity to our understanding of jellyfish reproduction. This ability to essentially restart their life cycle gives these species a form of biological immortality, at least in theory, though most individuals still fall prey to predators or disease before they can take full advantage of this ability. Environmental factors play crucial roles in jellyfish reproduction. Temperature, food availability, salinity, and photoperiod all influence when polyps strobilate, how many ephirae they produce, and how quickly medusae grow and mature. In seasonal environments, jellyfish populations often follow predictable annual cycles, with medusae appearing in large numbers during particular months when conditions are optimal. Human activities have sometimes inadvertently created ideal conditions for jellyfish polyps. Pier pilings, ship hulls, aquaculture structures, and other artificial hard substrates provide abundant settlement surfaces. Some jellyfish populations have increased in harbors and coastal areas where these structures are common, leading to more frequent blooms. As you settle into sleep, imagine the remarkable transformations that jellyfish undergo, beginning as a microscopic egg drifting in the plankton, developing into a swimming larva seeking a place to settle, transforming into a stationary polyp that feeds and waits, sometimes for years, then one day responding to some environmental signal, beginning the strobilation process, dividing into sections that will become independent animals. each ephyra breaking free and swimming away, growing and developing, eventually maturing into the graceful Medusa form. And perhaps, if times become difficult, even reversing this transformation, growing young again, starting over. In these cycles of transformation, there's something deeply profound, a reminder that life is not always a straight line from birth to death, but can be a cycle, a wheel, a pattern of transformation and renewal, of waiting and exploding into abundance, of patience and proliferation, all guided by ancient rhythms and environmental cues that jellyfish have followed for hundreds of millions of years. The relationship between humans and jellyfish is complex, spanning from ancient uses as food to modern medical breakthroughs, from troublesome pests to objects of aesthetic fascination. Throughout history, different cultures have viewed jellyfish in different ways, and our scientific understanding of these animals continues to reveal new aspects of their biology that surprise and inspire us. In many Asian cultures, jellyfish have been harvested and consumed for over 1,000 years. In China, jellyfish are considered a delicacy, particularly species in the order Rhezostomi, which includes cannonball jellyfish and others with firm, thick bells suitable for processing. The preparation involves removing the water from the jellyfish's body through a process of pressing and salting, reducing the gelatinous animal to a crunchy, protein-rich food with a texture somewhere between a vegetable and seafood. Dried or semi-dried jellyfish is commonly served in salads, often seasoned with soy sauce, sesame oil, and vinegar. The texture, rather than any strong flavor, is what appeals to many consumers. The jellyfish fishing industry is substantial in some regions, worth millions of dollars and employing thousands of people. As global demand for seafood increases and many fish stocks decline, some researchers have suggested that jellyfish could be an underutilized protein source, sustainable and abundant in many areas. Australian researchers have even called jellyfish a perfect food because they're high in protein, low in calories, and can be harvested sustainably in areas where they're abundant. However, expanding jellyfish consumption beyond traditional Asian markets has proven challenging, as Western cultures generally view jellyfish with distaste or fear rather than seeing them as potential food. In traditional Chinese medicine, jellyfish have been used for various purposes, believed to have properties that can help with conditions from high blood pressure to arthritis. While scientific evidence for these medicinal uses is limited, the long history of jellyfish in traditional medicine systems speaks to their cultural importance in regions where they're commonly found. The discovery of green fluorescent protein from jellyfish has had an enormous impact on modern medicine and biological research. As mentioned earlier, GFP allows scientists to visualize cellular processes that were previously invisible, leading to breakthroughs in understanding cancer, viral infections, neurological development, and countless other biological phenomena. The applications of GFP continue to expand, with new variants being developed and new uses being discovered regularly. Beyond GFP, other compounds from jellyfish are being studied for potential medical applications. Some jellyfish venoms contain peptides and proteins that might have pharmaceutical uses. The collagen from jellyfish mesoglea is being investigated as a potential biomedical material for tissue engineering and wound healing. Even the ability of some jellyfish to regenerate tissue and reverse their life cycle is being studied for insights into aging, tissue repair, and stem cell biology. In aquariums around the world, jellyfish have become popular exhibits, captivating visitors with their graceful movements and otherworldly appearance. Keeping jellyfish in captivity requires specialized equipment, particularly chrysal tanks that create a gentle circular current, preventing the jellyfish from drifting into corners or getting caught on surfaces. These rounded tanks, often with LED lighting to illuminate the translucent animals, create hypnotic displays that can hold viewers' attention for extended periods. The popularity of jellyfish in public aquariums has led to increased interest in keeping them as pets, with small home jellyfish aquarium kits becoming available. However, jellyfish require careful maintenance, specialized feeding, and appropriate conditions, making them more challenging to keep than many people expect. Still, for those willing to invest the effort, watching jellyfish pulse peacefully through a home aquarium can be remarkably meditative and calming. Jellyfish blooms can pose significant problems for human activities. When large numbers of jellyfish aggregate in harbors or coastal areas, they can clog fishing nets, making commercial fishing difficult or impossible. The gelatinous mass of a bloom can overwhelm fishing gear, sometimes even sinking small boats when extremely dense. In some cases, jellyfish blooms have shut down beaches, deterring swimmers and tourists. Power plants and desalination facilities that draw seawater for cooling have been disrupted by jellyfish blooms, with massive numbers of jellyfish being sucked into intake pipes and clogging the systems. Nuclear power plants have been forced to shut down temporarily when jellyfish blooms blocked their cooling water intake. These incidents highlight the practical impacts that jellyfish populations can have on human infrastructure. Climate change is altering jellyfish distributions and populations in complex ways. Some jellyfish species appear to be thriving in warming, more acidic oceans, while others may be negatively affected. Overfishing of jellyfish predators and competitors may also be allowing jellyfish populations to expand in some regions. Understanding these changes is important for managing fisheries, predicting blooms and maintaining healthy ocean ecosystems. The aesthetic appeal of jellyfish has inspired artists, designers, and photographers. Their fluid movements and translucent forms have been captured in countless images and videos. Some artists use jellyfish as subjects for exploring themes of impermanence, fluidity, and the boundary between life and non-life. The mesmerizing quality of jellyfish movement has even inspired meditation videos and apps designed to help people relax. Citizen science projects have engaged the public in tracking jellyfish populations. Beachgoers are encouraged to report jellyfish sightings, helping scientists understand distribution patterns and population changes. These crowdsourced data collection efforts have provided valuable information about jellyfish ecology while engaging public interest in marine biology. As you drift towards sleep, consider the many ways jellyfish touch human lives, from ancient food traditions to cutting-edge medical research, from troublesome blooms to popular aquarium exhibits, from inspiration for artists to subjects of scientific study. These ancient animals, drifting through the ocean with no thought of us, have nevertheless become intertwined with human culture and science in surprising ways. And perhaps there's something we can learn from them beyond the scientific discoveries, beyond the practical applications. Maybe in their simplicity, their resilience, their ancient lineage, and their gentle pulsing through the water, jellyfish offer us a different perspective, a reminder of a simpler way of existing, of floating peacefully through life's currents, taking what comes, letting go of what passes, drifting onward in a state of elegant simplicity. There's something profoundly peaceful about watching jellyfish drift. They ask nothing of the observer, demand no attention, simply exist in their translucent beauty, pulsing rhythmically through the water with a grace that seems almost meditative. In an aquarium's dim blue light, or in the ocean's open water, jellyfish move with a tempo that slows time, each pulse a small meditation, each drift a reminder that not everything in nature is hurried or urgent. Their transparency gives them an otherworldly quality, as if they're not quite solid, not quite real. Hovering somewhere between substance and water, light passes through their bodies, bending and refracting, creating subtle plays of color, even in species that appear colorless. The mesoglea catches and scatters light, creating a soft glow around the bell's edge, while the internal structures, the gastrovascular cavity and canals, create shadowy patterns visible through the translucent tissue. The pulsing motion of jellyfish is hypnotic, a regular rhythm that continues endlessly, contract and expand, contract and expand. The bell squeezes, pushing water out, propelling the jellyfish forward and upward. Then the bell relaxes, spreading open, and the jellyfish drifts downward with the water flow. This simple motion, repeated thousands of times, carries the jellyfish through its environment with minimal energy expenditure, efficient and elegant. When multiple jellyfish drift together, their pulsing often falls into loose synchrony, creating a visual rhythm that draws the eye. Not perfectly synchronized like a choreographed dance, but loosely coordinated, each jellyfish pulsing in its own time, yet somehow part of a larger pattern. Watching a group of jellyfish in a tank, all pulsing and drifting, rotating slowly with the current, can induce a state of calm focus, the mind following their movements and letting other thoughts drift away. Jellyfish embody impermanence. Their bodies are temporary things, mostly water, easily damaged, quickly dissolving when they die. They don't build structures that last, don't leave traces beyond their brief existence. They're here for a moment, pulsing through the water, and then gone, their substance returning to the ocean from which it came. In this impermanence, There's a kind of freedom, an existence unencumbered by permanence, by legacy, by anything beyond the present moment. Their radial symmetry means they have no forward or backward, no left or right, no front or back. Every direction is essentially the same, every angle equally valid. This symmetry gives them a kind of completeness, a self-contained wholeness that doesn't require directional orientation. They don't face anything, don't turn toward or away, simply exist equally in all directions at once. The simplicity of their needs is remarkable. They don't require complex habitats, elaborate social structures, or sophisticated behaviors. Just water of appropriate salinity and temperature, some plankton to eat, and they can survive. This simplicity allows them to inhabit virtually every marine environment, to tolerate a wide range of conditions, to persist through changes that would challenge more specialized creatures. In different lighting conditions, jellyfish reveal different aspects of their structure. In bright light, you can see through them almost entirely, their internal anatomy clearly visible. In dim light, they become ghostly presences, barely distinguishable from the surrounding water. Under LED lights that cycle through different colors, aquarium jellyfish appear to change color dramatically, glowing in blues, purples, greens, and reds, though the color is just light passing through and reflecting off their translucent forms. The trailing tentacles of jellyfish add to their aesthetic appeal, creating flowing lines that follow the jellyfish's movement, curving and waving in the water. In species with long tentacles, these trailing threads can extend several times the bell's diameter, creating an enormous presence in the water, despite the jellyfish itself being relatively small. The tentacles drift and flow, constantly in motion, responding to every current, every movement of the jellyfish's bell. Some jellyfish rotate slowly as they pulse, spinning in the water, creating a three-dimensional dance that reveals every angle of their form. Others remain oriented with their bells horizontal, tentacles trailing below, maintaining a fixed posture as they drift upward and down with each pulse. The variation in movement patterns adds to the mesmerizing quality of watching them. The environment jellyfish create around themselves is also beautiful. The water they move becomes visible, patterns of flow revealed by their motion. You can see the jet of water pushed from the bell, the vortices created at the bell's edge, the gentle current their pulsing produces. In this way, jellyfish make invisible water visible, showing us the fluid dynamics of their environment through their movement. Jellyfish in the wild often attract small fish and other organisms that shelter among their tentacles or swim in their wake. Watching these symbiotic relationships in action adds another layer of interest. The small fish dart among the stinging tentacles, apparently immune or careful enough to avoid triggering nematocysts, gaining protection from larger predators that would be stung if they approached. The jellyfish seems unaware of or unconcerned by these passengers, continuing its eternal pulsing regardless. The contrast between jellyfish and the frenetic pace of most modern life is striking. While we rush from task to task, constantly connected, perpetually busy, jellyfish drift slowly through the ocean at a pace measured in inches per minute. They don't multitask, don't check notifications, don't worry about tomorrow. They exist fully in the present, responding to immediate stimuli, living entirely in the now. There's a lesson in that simple existence, a reminder that complexity isn't always necessary, that some things can be both simple and successful, that speed and sophistication aren't the only paths to survival. Jellyfish have persisted for hundreds of millions of years, not despite their simplicity, but perhaps because of it. Their basic design proving remarkably resilient across vast spans of time and dramatic environmental changes. As you rest tonight, let yourself drift like a jellyfish. No particular destination, no urgent goals, just peaceful, floating through the moment. Feel yourself pulsing slowly, rhythmically, each breath like the contraction and expansion of a jellyfish's bell. Contract and relax. Contract and relax. Moving gently through the water of sleep, transparent and insubstantial, mostly water yourself, boundaries between self and environment softening, dissolving. Drifting down through layers of consciousness, descending into deeper waters, into darker depths, where thoughts become slower, vaguer, less distinct. Just pulsing gently, drifting downward, letting the currents carry you, releasing all effort, all intention, all direction, simply being, simply floating, simply existing in this moment, translucent and weightless, drifting in the dark water of sleep. And now, as we near the end of our journey, let's float together for a moment, in the quiet depths we've explored. You've traveled through the jellyfish's world, from their ancient origins hundreds of millions of years ago to their modern success in every ocean. You've learned about their impossible simplicity, bodies made almost entirely of water yet capable of learning, of reproduction, of complex behaviors. You've seen them glow in the darkness, watched them form partnerships with photosynthetic algae, observed their transformations from polyp to medusa and sometimes back again. These creatures exist in a state we might aspire to in our quietest moments. They don't overthink, don't second guess, don't worry about tomorrow or regret yesterday. They simply respond to their immediate environment with elegant reflexes, refined over millions of years. When hungry, they capture prey. When conditions are right, they reproduce. When threatened, they pulse away or flash with light. When the current carries them, they drift. Such beautiful simplicity. You are part of the ocean too. The water that makes up most of your body came from the ancient seas, cycled through clouds and rivers, through countless organisms, eventually finding its way to you. The salt in your blood has the same composition as seawater, a reminder that life began in the ocean and carries that ocean within. The calcium in your bones, the iron in your blood, all the elements that make you were forged in dying stars billions of years ago, just as the elements in jellyfish were. In this way, you're connected to everything. To the ancient jellyfish that first evolved hundreds of millions of years ago, to the modern jellyfish pulsing through the ocean tonight, to every living thing that shares this planet. The boundaries we perceive are softer than they seem. We're all made of the same basic stuff, all following the same fundamental processes, all temporary patterns of organization in the vast flow of matter and energy that is the universe. Tonight, as you rest, let yourself be like the jellyfish. Let go of complexity. Release the need to understand everything, to control everything, to be anything other than what you are in this moment. Your breath can be your pulse, the rhythmic contraction and expansion that moves you through life. In and out, contract and expand. Each breath carrying you deeper into rest, into sleep, into the peaceful darkness where consciousness dissolves. Imagine yourself transparent, light passing through you, nothing to hide, nothing to defend. Imagine yourself drifting with currents you don't try to fight, accepting where the flow takes you. Imagine yourself radially symmetric, complete unto yourself, every direction equally valid. No front or back, no sides, just wholeness. Imagine yourself mostly water, boundaries between self and world softening, merging, becoming less distinct. The jellyfish you've learned about tonight are still out there, countless trillions of them, in every ocean, at every depth. While you sleep, they'll continue their ancient existence, pulsing peacefully through dark waters, drifting with currents, capturing what comes within reach, existing in that perfect state of simple presence. They don't need your awareness to exist, don't depend on being understood, simply are what they are, have been what they are, for longer than mountains have stood, and will likely continue long after everything we consider permanent has changed beyond recognition. Let that long perspective bring you peace. Your worries, your anxieties, your concerns, all the things that seemed so important hours ago are small ripples on the surface of something much deeper and vaster. Beneath the surface turbulence, there are quiet depths where jellyfish drift through darkness, where nothing is urgent, where patience is infinite, where time moves differently. Descend into those depths now. Let the surface world fade. The light is dimming, filtering down from above, becoming bluer, softer, less distinct. You're sinking gently through layers, through zones of light into zones of twilight, and from twilight into darkness. And it's comfortable here in the dark, peaceful, quiet. Nothing demands your attention, nothing requires response. Just the slow, gentle pulse of existence, the rhythmic breathing that continues without thought, the automatic processes of life proceeding on their own, asking nothing of your conscious mind. You might encounter a bioluminescent jellyfish here in the darkness, its bell glowing with soft blue light, pulsing through the black water like a living star. The light fades as it moves away, leaving only darkness again, but a friendly darkness, a peaceful darkness, a welcoming darkness where sleep lives. Or perhaps you're floating in Jellyfish Lake in Palo. Millions of golden jellyfish pulsing gently around you in warm water, following the sun across the sky, patient and purposeful. Their daily migration a dance thousands of years old, repeating endlessly, ancient as the lake itself. You're drifting among them, part of the great aggregation, one among millions. all following the same rhythm, all pulsing together in loose synchrony. Or maybe you're in the Arctic, beneath ice, where a lion's mane jellyfish trails tentacles through water cold and clear, hunting in slow motion, patient as only something with tentacles 100 feet long can afford to be. The cold is distant, not touching you, the darkness complete, but not frightening. Just the slow pulse of the giant jellyfish, the drift of currents, the patience of deep time. Wherever you imagine yourself, whatever ocean you've chosen, let yourself become more transparent, more water-like, more simple. Let thoughts dissolve like salt in water, spreading out, dissipating, becoming part of the medium rather than distinct objects within it. Let awareness expand to include everything and nothing, the state before sleep, where consciousness diffuses, where you're still barely present but fading, going, almost gone. The jellyfish don't mind. They've seen countless organisms come and go, barely noticing, continuing their eternal pulsing regardless. They'll be here tomorrow, and the day after, and years from now, and millennia from now, assuming nothing catastrophic happens to the oceans themselves. And even if catastrophe comes, jellyfish have survived every catastrophe before, so they'll likely persist through whatever comes next, drifting peacefully through whatever waters remain, pulsing their simple pulse, existing in their elegant way. Rest now, let your body be mostly water, let your mind be mostly empty, let your breath be a gentle pulse. You don't need to do anything, be anything, accomplish anything, just rest, just drift, just exist for a moment in perfect simplicity, in pure presence, in the peaceful darkness of sleep that's rising now, rising like deep water, enveloping you, holding you gently, carrying you down into dreams, or beyond dreams, into the quiet depths where consciousness dissolves completely, and only the automatic processes remain, breathing continuing on its own, heart beating without thought, life continuing while you rest, while you sleep, while you let go completely. Good night, rest well, dream peacefully, and thank you for drifting with me tonight through the quiet, ancient, elegant world of jellyfish.